Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here. Thank you for joining me on this after the Democrats' 2020 debate post show that I just spent 3+ hours wading through to watch. What? A total and complete clusterfuck. And we're going to go by minute by minute, tweet by tweet. I was live tweeting the whole thing. Thumbs this video up, share it. But I want to point out, people are asking how long Gabbard talked, and I posted, if you read the live chat, I just checked afterwards. I said 9 minutes tops out of 3 hours, and it was actually 8 minutes and 21 seconds. Despite her and Yang polling better than the majority of the other candidates up here, you'll notice who they're really trying to push. It's Warren and Biden. And I have no idea why they think that Elizabeth, by golly, Warren has a chance. She has no chance in a national election. Zero. I mean, zero chance. Absolutely none. But that's not why you came here. You didn't come here to have me bash Elizabeth Warren and her chances, but you did come here to find out if there was anything worthwhile in these debates. And look, Tulsi did okay, but I would say even with that, less than 9 minute showing, it was probably her poorest showing. She, first of all, was, of course, attacked about Syria, not given much of a chance to discuss her position, had her moments, but also, for the very first time that I've heard, endorsed a universal basic income. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of scroll through my Twitter feed so I can get the minute by minute, kind of what I thought was important. And the way that the debates opened up was Elizabeth Warren being a fucking liar. All right, not only is she unelectable, even though you gave her almost an hour's time. Again, Elizabeth Warren, what was it, 42 minutes? 22:58. Are these actual numbers? Whatever you believe, she definitely had more time than just about everybody. That's absolutely real. I mean, this thing was just about 3 hours. The commercial breaks were minimal. They were at each hour maybe like 5 minutes, so the thing had to run close to that. Now, she opened it up saying that she read the entire Mueller report. No, she didn't. She absolutely didn't. 100%. I would challenge anybody that goes to an Elizabeth Warren rally, if she read the entire Mueller report, no, she read the talking point they told her to talk about with the Mueller report. We'll get to that in a second. Ask her what the Mueller report said about Assange. Again, Assange never brought up. Snowden never brought up. They didn't even bring up China, which I thought was pretty incredible with the media storm going on with the NBA, China, South Park, and especially what LeBron James said. You can't go to a website, you can't go to a social media feed and not see the clip of LeBron James basically saying that, hey, hey, free speech can be bad. It can be hurtful. You got to watch it. It can be dangerous. It's danger. Talking's danger. I'm so sick of that analogy. Well, sometimes free speech is like crying fire in a movie theater. Bullshit. But hey, let's get into what Elizabeth Warren said. She basically pivoted from the Russian collusion narrative. Okay, no one was running really the Russian collusion narrative anymore. They're saying, Putin puppet every once in a while, etc. But the Russian collusion narrative is over. And she went to the false narrative of obstruction of justice. Now, if you were watching my stuff while I was working for We Are Change, before the Mueller report came out, weeks, if not months before, I predicted that obstruction of justice would become the new Russian collusion, and it has. And now we have Russiagate 2.0 with the Ukraine. And we'll get into that dishonesty as we go through. Now, when Tulsi did get her first opportunity to talk about the impeachment issue, which everybody was like, impeachment, we need to impeach. And then you had Steyer on there, I think it's Tom Steyer, for the first time, the only person to get less time than Tulsi, the billionaire on stage, okay? He talked about basically how, he needed to be impeached day one. He was trying to get him impeached day one. So Tulsi gave the only sane answer, saying that she was for the impeachment inquiry that was going on based on the Ukrainian phone calls, which I think was a little too much. She should have really brought up the corruption of Biden. And she had several opportunities to literally go for Biden's friggin' jugular, and she missed those, man. And I'm going to get into one specific with Operation Timber Sycamore and Syria. But again, right there, still the best answer on impeachment. And I would say Andrew Yang probably gave the second best answer. Still pandering, didn't love it. So let's keep scrolling up through. And yeah, 40 minutes in, as per se, you saw she had the second to least time up there. 40 minutes into the debates, and Tulsi Gabbard had less than 90 seconds, and it was only on the subject of impeachment. Also, as you'll see in these tweets, you went through the entire first hour, and there was no talk of foreign policy, the never-ending wars in the Middle East, or the current situation with Assange. Assange is never mentioned. They open up with Syria with their false Kurdish Turkey narrative, but we're never talking about Afghanistan. We're not talking about Iraq. AFRICOM isn't even a thing. And that's how you know that these debates are total Johnny nonsense, okay? Now, I could tell right away when they did go to Gabbard in the end of that first hour, and she jumped onto the universal basic income, I was going to have to address that issue. Here's the deal on a universal basic income. I in no way, shape, or form understand how anybody can think that because of automation and the fact that vast amounts of jobs are going away, giving people who've earned nothing something helps the economy. It doesn't. What it says to me is, why don't we just give up as human beings? No. What we need to do is we need to revamp our education system and forget about these 4-year colleges and really have 2-year trade schools. And in the second 2 years of your high school, your junior and senior year, you're working towards some kind of a skill set for the future, whether that be coding, whether that be a computer technician. There are so many things out there that are very viable today that will continue to be viable that go outside of this idea that automation is going to cause the crash of everything. Yang himself talked about the trucking industry and the fact that we're going to have self-driving trucks and how that will disrupt. And it will be a disruption. But by giving people money for nothing, all you're doing is making the money that I earned for something worth less. And you're actually penalizing people who work for a living by inevitably raising the prices of everything. That's how I look at the universal basic income. I don't think that's a viable solution. And by the way, guys, I don't know that I'm going to take any questions other than super chats. If any super chats come up, because I just feel like I want to pump through this one after watching 3 hours of this debate. So like I said, the Democrat establishment seems to be hell-bent to push Elizabeth by golly Warren tonight. That's how out of touch they are. The woman has no chance in a national election. I will stand by that 1,000%. No chance in a national election. So then, when we get up to the Syria thing, it's the bullshit narrative. You know what they didn't bring up? They didn't bring up that gun range footage from Kentucky that the mainstream media is so hell-bent on selling us to stay in war. They want us so badly to be in war, they'll show that and tell you that that's on the Syrian and Turkey border. Once they're caught, oh, we're sorry. And it's a non-scandal. So when we finally get to Tulsi Gabbard and the end of the regime change wars, I wish that she had brought up Operation Timber Sycamore, specifically in the case of Syria, and gone for Biden's throat, because Biden was ripe right there. He was talking about how great he was. Otherwise, it was a pretty solid response to a rigged question, and she put Warren on the spot saying, will you stand with me and say today that we should leave Syria, which she would not do, by the way. She talked around it. And then you had Pete Buttigieg, or as I like to call him, Pete Bootlicker, go after Tulsi Gabbard with the false warmongering establishment narratives that we're all hearing right now, and the same neocon, neoliberal talking points that his billionaire donors love so much. Okay? Now, Tulsi did get to come back, make him pay a little bit with a logic, but again, Pete Bootlicker, he got his last word in, And according to people like Anderson Cooper in the New York Times, which Tulsi was smart enough to go after, by the way, she actually named the New York Times as smearing her and pushing this war, which was good. Again, her logic was better, but who did they give the last word to? Pete Bootlicker. So Bernie Sanders especially in this case. At the end, I'm going to give Bernie credit for talking about Yemen, and Yemen was barely brought up. Even Cory Booker wedged a little bit of truth about Yemen and that situation in just a string of lies and bullshit. But Bernie Sanders really did. He towed the line. We're abandoning people in Syria. How dare we? Give me a break. And here are those talking points, okay, against Tulsi Gabbard. Liz Wall, who used to work for Russia Today, but now everything's Russia, 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 she puts this out. Tulsi Gabbard's regime change war is a Syrian and Russian propaganda buzz phrase. Oh, it's the Syrians and the Russians that are telling Tulsi what to say. It's not that she was a soldier. It's not that she believes that maybe we should get out of these wars. Pay attention to her rhetoric and how it impacts the conversation. We'd be in a better place if we were appropriately alarmed with Trump's anti-democratic rhetoric when it mattered. So I met Liz Wall once. For those that don't know, Abby Martin she's of MediaRoots.org. I've had Robbie on. I intend to have Abby on. I need to see her latest film, Gaza Fight for Freedom. But I went to RT Studios to maybe be her producer. So I was spending a day there. And Liz Wall had a hissy fit. A fucking full-on hissy fit in there. I think it was with another anchor. I forget who she was getting into it with. But a producer had to come in and basically stop. So it doesn't surprise me that she completely sold out. She tried to sell out and become famous. Listen, you're not that great, Liz. With all your TV time, I hate to tell you, I've got a bigger following than you do. And I don't have a huge following. All right? And Tyler Hudak, part of the Action for Assange network, picked up on the fact that, oh, here we go. Here comes the mainstream talking points about Russia, Russia, Russia. Oh, so this is the part where Booker, out of nowhere, sneaks in just a little bit of truth about Yemen and our involvement there and our pandering to Saudi Arabia. But in large part, that was not an issue on the stage. It certainly wasn't a question from the moderators. We never talk about our relationship with Saudi Arabia. Nobody ever brings up the funding of 9/11 by Saudi Arabians or Pakistanis, by the way. We can't talk about those things. All right? So as the conversation moved to gun control, I noticed this. First of all, Anderson Cooper kept trying to get Beto O'Rourke to be like, come on, man, we got to do the confiscation of guns. Like, how are you going to get them? Shouldn't we be going door to door? Shouldn't we be sending police there? You haven't answered the question. How will you get all these guns? Basically pushing for gun grabbing, but saying, hey, how are you going to do it? We need a lot of gun grabbing. No conversation about the psychotropic drugs the majority of these shooters are taking when they commit these horrific acts. Okay? The Dayton, Ohio shooter is confirmed to have been on alcohol, cocaine, and psychotropic medications at the time of the shooting. Period. He had a long and disturbing history of mental health issues where he was obsessed with decapitations, death, and rape. So much so that he made a rape and kill list and was expelled from school for an entire year. In fact, when he re-enrolled in school and the students were not made aware, 1/3, as reported by the media, let me say this again, 1/3 of the school fucking left. Can you imagine that? That in a school where the student population is so scared of one person that they let back in that 1/3 of them leave? But again, we're not going to talk about the mental health issues that are with these mass shootings. No, let's talk about grabbing the guns, which I was not happy about. No, sir. And again, Gabbard brought up the fact that she'd been unfairly smeared. Killed it on that. I'll give her that. And Tim Pool rightfully said every single person up there other than Gabbard would bolster forces in the Middle East, 100%. And he's right. I don't see eye to eye with Tim Pool a lot, but he's right on that one. And then Kamala Harris talking about, young black men dying in these violent acts. Well, actually, one of the largest causes of young black being killed are police. And you can take that any way you want it, but it's something that really was not discussed. Castro ended up kind of sliding in there, having his best moment, talking about the woman who had a welfare check called on her and was shot through her window and killed by a police officer recently. Savor it, because that's the one time I've heard him make sense. Of course, with Elizabeth Warren and others, what was one of the other big topics here? Big tech, and we're going to break up Google. We're going to break up Facebook. Ra-da-da-da-da-da-da. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Andrew Yang brought up Microsoft and Bing and how everybody doesn't use that anymore and all that. But what we're never going to talk about with big tech is the fact that Google is in bed with NASA. And it's not just in the space program. It's in the quantum computing realm. So when Google is in bed with NASA in quantum computing, which is also funded by people like Bezos, I didn't put that in there, but it's true. Bezos, Goldman Sachs, you can look it up. I've done videos previously on this with We Are Change, but it's really easy to find. Of course you're going to have big tech problems because they're part of the government. When you contract Jeff Bezos for the NSA to have their cloud security services, you're already in bed. You're already a fascist country. Okay? This is the technopoly I talk about. So all we're hearing is really lip service, guys. It's not a reality when these people talk about that. Nobody on stage will bring up the facts that I just did. All right? But what they will do is Kamala Harris will tell you that Twitter needs to kick Donald Trump off of their platform. So the deplatforming argument is being championed by some of these candidates, not just on people, but on the president of the fucking United States. See, the president shouldn't be allowed to have a Twitter. If you can ban the president from a social media platform, you can arbitrarily ban anybody you like. And Elizabeth Warren jumped in, didn't have much better to say. In fact, she said, of course I want Trump off Twitter, but I want him out of the White House too. So it's like, all right, well, you want him off Twitter, so does he get to have a Twitter account after he's out of the White House? Like, what is going on here? It's hard for me to follow some of the logic that was going on. Oh, and look at that. We scrolled a little too much, but that's all right. Oh, here's one of my big beefs. When we sit there and we talk about the reproductive health of women, that's what the terminology is now. Reproductive health of women, reproductive health of women. The only person that gave any sort of a marginally sane argument, in my opinion, was Tulsi Gabbard, at least saying that there should never be a third trimester abortion unless the woman's life is really physically in danger. But let me pose this to you people. Why is it I have no say, ever, in this argument? No man has a fucking say. And it really bothers me, man. A lot of you guys know that I'm kind of a family man. I help take care of my nieces, right? Well, I'll tell you right now, the reason that I am fatherless is because I don't have a say. And a woman has no right to tell me that I've slipped one past the goalie. Happened a couple times to me. And I don't find out until after the fact, right? I'm sure I'm not the only one in that boat. And does that mean that, I was totally in love with these girls and I was ready to start a family? No, but I certainly know what personal responsibility is. And I know that it takes two to tango. All right? We're not talking about a rape case, and we're not talking about Elizabeth Warren when she talked about a 14-year-old being molested by her family member. Okay, they always bring up the most traumatic cases. They don't bring up the fact that it's never even whispered that I have no say over my potential child ever. There is no personal responsibility there. And that's twisted to me, man. And I know there will be some people that don't think that I have a right or a say, but look, if she doesn't want to be involved in that child's life and I've got to pay all the medical bills running up to the birth and I've got to take full custody of that child, that should be within my rights, I believe. If I can genetically prove that's my kid in there, I think I should have a say as to whether I want that child. Never even whispered in this country. Never discussed. There is no morality outside of her right to choose. And I think that's a big mistake. You may disagree with me. That's how I feel. So, At one point, Biden starts talking about how he's the only one that's ever got anything done. He's getting it done. Bernie's best moment of the entire night is when he went after him for getting it done, but he could have gone way, way harder. Again, he could have brought up Operation Timber Sycamore in 2012 and the CIA going in and starting that conflict in Syria. He could have done that. Instead, he just said, war in Iraq, Afghanistan. He said some pretty good things. He went in pretty hard on Biden, but could have, dude, get me up there. Are you kidding me? I'm going for the jugular on every one of these puppet motherfuckers. And, Pete Bootlicker, he tried to, come in with the jokes. If I had $1 from every time that we argued up here, I could send everybody to college. No, you couldn't, Bootlicker. You couldn't send anybody anywhere because despite you being one of the more well-spoken establishment candidates, you're unelectable too. You're unelectable, let's be honest. And as we winded down the debates, Anderson Cooper used his last breath to frame another false narrative question. What was that false narrative question? Well, he was trying to normalize the relationship with Ellen and George W. Bush, as if it was just a simple difference of opinion politically. No, she is a Hollywood influencer making millions upon millions of dollars a year, sitting with a war criminal that helped ensure the deaths of millions and millions of people. I want to point that out. And Anderson Cooper wants to normalize that, and I don't like it. Thank you for the super chat reply to totally agree, men's rights for abortion. Listen, I'm just saying I should be informed. I should have a say. That there should be some kind of system in place where I'm just not shit on. Again, I think it's insanity, but hey, that's not how our culture works, I guess. At the very end, Bernie brought up the Yemen situation, but he failed to bring up the fact that, number one, Trump vetoed it, and number two, we're still involved. I'll say this. These guys were not as Trump bloodthirsty as they were in the previous debates. It wasn't Trump. I thought it was going to go that way. In the first hour or so, you could see it leaning that way. But instead, they kind of turned on each other. And the problem with that is most of them have the same establishment bullshit talking points that nobody wants to hear. So, guys, I got to tell you, right now, I don't see anybody beating this guy. Nobody up there. And Tulsi Gabbard, I think Tulsi is by far the best person up there. But with the UBI, the fact the media is already against her, it's going to be hard for her to push forward. And I encourage you guys to support at least her being up there so we can have an anti-war voice because, believe me, it's not there otherwise. Life of Brian said, if Tulsi goes light like this, she neither gets elected or gets a cabinet position. Only way for her to win is either go full Warren or run aggressively against the Democrats. Yeah, no, she's got to go full boat. And I'm encouraging her to go full boat. I really am disappointed about the universal basic income thing, guys. And, I stated my reasons why. Tell me how you feel. We're going to wrap this one up. I really do appreciate it. I'm doing it 3 to 7 times a day, guys. I know this is my first video today. I need a little bit of a break, but I'm actually going to be doing a few more later tonight. I think I'm going to do a walk and talk with my dog because she's anxious to get out of here. And then I'm going to be talking about a new Chinese UFO helicopter that's been revealed to the public and is in testing, supposedly going to be in flight in 2020. I think it's pretty interesting stuff. Make sure you thumbs this up. If you're new to the Burmist Brigade, you like this take. It's not a left or right take. It's not a bipartisan take. It's a reality take, okay? It's the predator class versus you and me. It doesn't matter if you're blue or red, conservative or Democrat, right? Liberal, whatever. They're misnomers. They're nonsense. The predator class is against you and I, and it's time to take the truth back. And I'm doing it with your support. This is how I'm doing it. It's the GoFundMe. We're quite a bit behind for that $5,000 goal, but hey, I'm working towards more videos, more content, more information, and we're going to push forward no matter what. I want to thank you guys, and I will see you on the flip side.